thanks, friends, colleagues, comrades, thanks for coming out tonight. It's been quite a bit of a whirlwind since the election was announced, but I'm delighted that having retained my seat 12 months ago and knowing how hard it's been over the 12 months to work without Chris and the 2 years to work without Chris, I'm delighted that the Labour Party selected Chris back into this seat. So without further ado, I'm going to give you the man himself, Chris Ruane.
Thanks very much for that, Anne. It's been a difficult day for us today, and the days are going to get more difficult. The media is no friend to Labour. We've known this since the 1980s when they attacked Neil Kinnock because he was Welsh on racist grounds. We've known it with Ed Miliband when they attacked not just Ed Miliband but his dead dad, who was a war hero. So, and they're going to go for us, they're going to go for all of us, all our senior leadership, they're going to go for us as candidates, we know that. But we've got to stay strong and we've got to stay united. Because if we don't, united we stand, divided we fall. And I'm thanking for letters of support from all geographical areas of the constituency and across different political views. It's great that we are united going forward to win this general election and to win this seat back for Labour. And there's much to be positive about. There's much to be positive about. And one of the most positive things we've had over the past week is our great councillors, our great candidates who stood last week. Can we have here they are. Can we have a big round of applause for them? The Tories were 16 points ahead nationally. They were expecting a landslide. They were expecting us to go down from 17 seats to 5 or 6. And that didn't happen. No. That didn't happen. We went down. We did go down. We went down from 17 to 13. Yeah. 10 years ago, Labour had 8 seats and the Tories had 18 seats. Yeah. Now, even though they're ahead in the polls, the Tories have got 16 seats and Labour have got 13 seats. That's a great base to start from. And we lost some of those seats by as little as 2 or 7 or 15. Yeah. And I want to pay tribute not just to these fine, excellent candidates and councillors, but the teams, their families who supported them all the way. It was a great team effort. And to see so many people out here today is absolutely fantastic. I hope somebody will do a head count because Dave Hanson had 60 at his. Sorry, Dave. I think we've got a tad more. So that's one thing to be positive about. Is the election results from our councillors last week. The second thing to be positive about is people power. Our party is one of the biggest parties in Western Europe now. We've had over 600 or nearly 600 members here in the Vale of Clwyd. We can't afford letters like this from Theresa May, signed personally, that have been sent at great cost through the post. We can't afford the £9,000 they spent on a wraparound for Real Journal and the Free Press. We can't afford the mail-outs that the MP sent out days or seconds before the general election, the local general election was called and the local elections were held. We can't afford that. But what we have got is people power. What we have got is leg power. What we have got is commitment from our workers, from our supporters and from our families to deliver this seat for Labour. And I think what we also have got, a very big positive, and it's great that Anne was able to introduce me today, and I pay tribute to the efforts for Anne to retain her seat last year. What we have got is an excellent record of investment in this community from Welsh Labour. Wales is the only nation in the United Kingdom that is Labour controlled. And you can see the difference. Our young people can see the difference because we have kept the educational maintenance allowance and the Tories stopped it in England. We have kept tuition fees up down to 3,000 when the Tories and the Lib Dems tripled them to 9,000. So that's the difference it makes to young people. Over there is a school built, funded by Welsh Labour, by Anne and the team down in Cardiff. £24 million on that school. 500 yards that way is going to be another school, the school I went to. £25 million to be spent on that school. We're going to have tens of £millions spent on the refurbishment of the Alexandra Hospital. We've had £28 million spent on housing by Welsh Labour in the West Ward of Rhyl, knocking down the 6-storey HMOs filled with people crammed in there, pile them high, sell them cheap, knocking them down, creating open space and building quality houses for young people to buy and rent. As low as £59,000. I don't want anybody running off to buy one. OK, so they're a great record of delivery. And also the harbour. £25 million spent on the harbour and the flood defences to stop real flooding. So that's a tribute. That's a compare and contrast with Tory England and Labour Wales. And I'm proud to stand on that record. I'm proud to stand as far as Brexit is concerned. The Tories think that that's their strength. I voted to remain in the EU. In 2000, I had the convergence funding, the Objective 1 map of Wales changed by Peter Hain. That resulted in hundreds of millions of pounds of European funding coming into Denbighshire and Conway, those two counties. And I'm proud to have done that. My proudest moment in Parliament is the passing of the minimum wage bill. My proudest moment in the constituency is securing that European funding, which has helped projects like the Optic project, £17 million, 8 million of it from Europe. Now the Tories, before the Brexit campaign, said, don't worry Wales, your funding will be secured if we move out of Europe. After the election, after the vote last year, Theresa May said, I'll guarantee your funding up to 2020. Now there's tail-off funding, and according to Derek Vaughan, that could be as high as 75%. So that's hundreds of millions of pounds that Wales will lose out by. Now I voted to remain, and I worked with Europe whilst I was the MP, and if I'm the MP again, I will work with Europe and with, most especially with Theresa May in Downing Street, making sure that we don't lose out that money that we were promised by those Tory Brexiteers.
You won't be in Downing Street.
Now the Tories gloat about the shrinking of the state. Their eyes sparkle. Local Tories are glad when they've reduced the number of workers working in Denbighshire County Council. They're glad when they've sacked the PCSOs and the police officers and the police support staff. Yeah. But what they must remember is there are 4,500 workers that work as Butty Glan Clwyd. There were 4,500 workers that work for Denbighshire County Council, but no longer. There are policemen, firemen, teachers, social workers, all good public servants, all doing their best to make this a proper knitted society instead of an alienated, atomised, isolated society. And all of those workers, all of those public all of those public sector workers have got votes. Of the 650 seats in the United Kingdom, this was the 35 highest for public sector workers. And those public sector workers, as I say, have got votes. And they can see with their own eyes, when the media say that Labour makes no difference, Labour, when they're in power, squander money, they don't. They can see with the investments in this community that have been made by Welsh Labour. And I want to stand on that record, a record of difference. Now, the Tories, Jeremy Corbyn wants an open, kinder, more compassionate society. And I am fully behind him on that. He says that austerity has hit the wrong people, and I fully agree with that. Those workers that have been sacked from Denbighshire, those PCSOs, those health workers that have been sacked because of austerity cuts, they're not the ones that caused the crash. They're the ones that have been punished. They're the ones who are having to pay for that crash. The ones who caused it are richer now than ever they were before. Yeah. And that's wrong. And the good British people know that. And there's a lack of compassion in society since the Tories have been in. We saw the winding up by right-wing Tories in the Brexit campaign. We saw them winding it up against immigrants. And after Brexit, we saw a 42% rise in hate crime on racial basis. When they were cranking it up against people on disability benefits, we saw the 5 hate crimes, 4 of them say stable, the hate crimes against disabled people, these people in wheelchairs, went up. Now, this is a terrible, terrible record, legacy of the Tories. Behind me is a food bank. And I pay tribute to the people who work and collect food for food banks. But food banks shouldn't be part and parcel of everyday living for British working people. No. The average worker in this constituency has lost £1,400 since 10 years ago. £1,400. And that's made a difference to our local economy. That's made a difference to our family structures, to our local society. So I completely agree that we need a kinder, gentler, more compassionate society. when we see people committing suicide after going for all those all-work tests, it's unforgivable. What can we do about it? Our greatest power is us, is we. And I ask you, each and every one of you, to play some role, or however little, over the next 4 weeks, to turn this constituency round back into a Labour constituency. And there are steps that you can take. And our fine county councillor team have proved what they can do. When they work day in, day out, they get re-elected, and they... Brian Blakely, where is he? Gets 1,100 votes on the southeast ward of Rill. JJ in the south, and Ellie on the southeast ward of Rill. South ward of Rill. When we counted the block votes, and this is an area of bungalow upon bungalow, natural Tory territory. When we counted the block votes, Labour and Conservative, Labour were ahead in the south ward of Rill. So well done, JJ and Ellie, and also Cheryl. And I've already started. I'm going to have to mention everybody now. But you get me drift. We did well. We did well because we were united, because we were out there day in, day out. Now, there's lots of measures that you can take, little tiny measures. You can follow me on Twitter, on Facebook. You can like me. Don't dislike me. You can retweet. I'm getting to grips with all of these new modern technologies. I prefer the old quill. So, you can help deliver leaflets in your area. And after we've finished here in the suite at the back, there are bags with just 100 leaflets in each, with households for you to deliver in this area or in your own hometown. After this, we want to send a team out, or 2 or 3 teams if we can, out there in these houses and identifying Labour supporters. We also want people, if they can, to staff telephone lines in the room at the back here. If you can, and this is, have anybody got the form, Jason? No. When Barack Obama won, can I just have one, Jerry? Yeah. Barack Obama won his election because of grassroots activity, electronically. Can I just have one? Yeah, I haven't got the 10. Oh, I haven't got the 10. Oh, okay. Because of grassroots activity, he motivated his base. And what I'm asking everybody to do is to fill in this. I'm getting 10 for Chris. Okay, it's a form with 10 spaces. And if you know 10 people in your family, in your neighbourhood, in your friendship ring, with your co-workers or your voluntary groups, and you can ask them, will you be voting for Labour's Chris Ruane on June the 8th? And you make a list of those people. And on the Monday before the election, you said, don't forget, Chris is standing on Thursday. And on election day, you say, have you voted for Chris? Then if we can get 1,000 people doing that, then that's 10,000 votes. You know, otherwise it's going to be left down to 50 or 60 people to be knocking doors for 12 hours a day on election day. And we can't reach that base. I lost by 237 votes. As I say, we've had councillors lost by 2 votes, 7 votes, 15 votes. If we had this, then we wouldn't have lost those. We wouldn't have lost my seat last time, and we wouldn't have lost them last week. So please, that's another way that you can help, by filling in that. And there are those forms that will be circulating afterwards. So, in conclusion, if we remain strong, despite the adversity and everything thrown at us by Tory leaflet drops, Tory billboards, Tory posters, the media, if we remain strong and united, then I think we will win this seat. But it is, again, down to people power, down to us, down to we. And I want to thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight, and hopefully everybody will be getting involved after this is finished. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr iawn.